And also, I just realized I'm bleeding. What's up, everyone? This is Trendkill Toys with another review. Today I'm taking a look at the brand new Tunshi Studios Iori Yagami from King of Fighters 97. I've been looking forward to this figure for a long time. The first figure that came out was the Terry Bogard figure, and that figure was a piece of crap. Thankfully, this figure is a lot better than that one. And like I just said, this figure is a lot better. They also revealed recently that they're coming out with some other ones. Rugal, Orochi, those have been up for pre-order. And then just recently they showed they'll be making a Mai Shiranui figure. I think that figure is going to be good. It's going to be accurate to her original appearance, and she won't be overweight like she is in some of the more recent games that she's featured in. But anyways, today we're looking at Iori Yagami. I'll just get into it. First, we're going to start with the box. The box was also in a separate box. So this is the box that the box actually comes in. So just so you know. So here's the front of the box. Pretty cool color scheme going on there with the purples. And then you get a short bio on the side of the box. It's got a picture of the figure. See his name, his birthday, his nationality, his height, his weight, and his blood type. On the back you got the warnings and a sticker to show you that it's official. Another shot of the figure there. On the side, a little paper here that you fill out if you want a warranty for the figure. And they have another little pamphlet here that's kind of instructions and warnings. And the final thing about the box is on the very back of the box, you do have the moon symbol that Iori has. I'm not really sure on the lore of it. That is a symbol that's, on the back of his shirt, on the back of his jacket or whatever. And that's also removable, so you can use that as a background. Before we take a look at the figure, I already have the accessories taken out, so we'll just take a quick look at those. It comes with a couple different effects and a variety of hands. On his left hand, he does have a ring on his middle finger there. And like I said, he's got a variety of hands, so you can see fists for both sides, relaxed or gripping hands for both sides, posing hands, open hands, a pointing hand. The hands currently on the figure are these posing hand and the pointing hand. So pretty good set of hands. And then he also has some effects, energy effects. So he has this one. Don't remember what the name of the move is. It's kind of like this purple energy spark that goes across the ground. It's not super brittle. It is kind of flexible. Then he also has this energy effect, which is very cool. Nice, detail in the color of the plastic is very nice. Also has a hand attached to the end of it. You can't remove it. I guess you could if you really tried, but you're not supposed to. Another energy effect, which also looks pretty cool. And again, the hand is attached to it. And there's no light up effects like we saw with the Terry figure. I was never able to get the light up effect to work anyways, so I'm glad that they skipped out on that this time. And then he's got 3 different head sculpts. So he's got this one, and the detail on all these is very good. You have the paint and the hair. It's good quality. Everything looks really good. And the figure feels so much better than the Terry figure. So this actually feels like it's worth the money that it was, which was like $100. The Terry figure was also around the same price. If you want to hear my full thoughts on that figure, you can check out my review on the channel. And then the final head sculpt that's on the figure is this smiling one. So no complaints with the figure in regards to the accessories. Now we'll get into the quality of the figure itself and the articulation. Obviously, as you can tell, his clothes are not plastic. This is actual cloth material that's used on the figure, and that's how the Tunshi studio figures are. They're using cloth. Most of the time I prefer that, especially if it's a character that's supposed to look realistic. Some people don't think cloth can work at this small of scale, but even the Terry figure was not that bad. But this figure proves even more that you can make a figure that looks good in this scale with cloth. And it still has very good articulation. And you can see for yourself the quality of the cloth. You can see the stitch work going around. It's not super flexible, but it's not super flexible, but it is flexible enough to bend when you're moving the joints and stuff. So it does not hinder articulation that much, except like you can't fully rotate the arm again because of the cloth. It bunches up and it restricts movement in that regard. So his costume is made out of 3 parts. You do have the top coat, the jacket that goes over the top. You have his undershirt, and then you have his red pants, and then also the belt that ties his 2 legs together. And then of course he's got his red hair, belt around his neck. It's a pretty iconic design if you're familiar with the franchise. Definitely a lot more interesting than some of the Street Fighter ones. But anyway, we'll get into the articulation of the figure. So he does have a rubber upper torso here, dumbbell joint going into the bottom of the head from the neck. So you can look down pretty far and also look up that far. So that's really good. And then of course you can tilt it side to side and then swivel it. So that's a really good articulation there. For the shoulders, there's a ball joint going from the shoulder into the body. So you can slightly shift it up and down and also shift it forward and back. But there's also, I think there's also a butterfly kind of mechanism in there as well, because you can also move the shoulder forward, move it a little bit backward, but most of the movement is going to be forward. That's really good, really useful. And also you have, and there's also a hinge in the shoulder, I believe, because you can get vertical movement that way. You can't go past that. It also has a little bit of padding in the shoulders. I really hope that didn't break. One second. Okay, it's not broken. I was able to get it back on there. It's one of those joints like where the bicep is separate and the forearm has a connector piece that goes through the bicep and it connects into the shoulder. So it's a little bit tricky to get back on there, but I did get it back on there. It's not broken and it feels solid once again. So again, that just proves that this figure is made a lot better than the first figure they released. You can also swivel shoulder around like I've shown you before, and then you can swivel the bicep. And he has a double jointed elbow, but it doesn't really go that far though. That's as much as you're gonna get, and that's due for two reasons. That's because of the way that the arm is built, but it's also because the bunching of the sleeve right there. So it's not just because of the cloth. And then he also has a swivel and hinge for the wrist, so you can get really good articulation out of that. In some poses it can look kind of ugly, but the sleeves do a really good job of hiding that. The torso, you have an upper ball joint. Now this also comes apart kind of easily. So right now it came apart, but again, you can easily put it back in. You gotta use some force, but it doesn't really move a whole lot. You can only move that far forward and then move a little bit backward and then left to right. Lower torso, it does move forward. It's a little bit tight, but you can move it forward, and that's where he gets most of his abdomen articulation. And then moving it backwards, you get it a little bit more. It's not really the most impressive, especially compared to like Storm Arena or some Jada toys also, but it's still very good. Also, the midsection of the figure also has a soft rubbery piece over the joint, so that's how you're able to get that articulation. And then of course it also moves side to side, and then both of those joints can also swivel. It's a little bit difficult because of the cloth that's over it. But now coming to the hips, some people might not like this, but it is drop down, so you are able to get very far. And this belt thing does stretch a little bit, not too much, but it does stretch enough to where, like I said, you're able to get most poses out of it. So we can kick that far, no hindrance with the pants or with the belt. Accessory here also goes out that far, again, no hindrance there at all. And he can do the splits pretty wide there. There's also a thigh swivel that is independent of the hip joint, but again, when you're rotating something, you got to be careful not to pull the cloth with it, because there you can start to run into some problems. But the thigh swivel is there. Double jointed knees move pretty good. Nothing in the ankle, but then you come here to the lower part of the ankle and you do get the same sort of joint as the wrist, so you can hinge it up, swivel it on both ends of the joint and get more articulation that way. It's kind of weird to do that, but it is possible. Then finally he has a toe hinge. One of the feet, it doesn't move, and I think it's probably stuck, and it's probably going to break if I keep forcing it. That's as far as it goes though. Now for the other one, it moves like it's supposed to. It moves freely. There's no hindrance there. So if you do get this figure, be careful of one of the toe hinges being frozen. One more note I want to make about the belt accessory here on his legs. You can tighten them, so they will get kind of loose over time the more you move the figure. Just tighten it like you would a regular belt. So you hold down the buckle and pull the belt to make it tighter, so it doesn't keep like falling down, and it actually stays in place there. Also, you can move the leg back a little bit and also cross his legs a little bit as well. Very good articulation, much better than the Terry figure. Now let me show you how some of the accessories look on this figure. So this one's pretty hard to put on. Here's what the wrist joint looks like, and putting this accessory on is kind of hard because it is very sharp and pointy, like everywhere. So you got to use some force, and then also you just have to be able to withstand the pain for a little bit, and then it will go on there. It is a heavy accessory though, so it is kind of difficult to leave it up, but it does, it's cool. You can get some pretty cool poses with that. It's just a very cool effect. I do kind of wish you were able to remove it from the hand so that you can put the hand on first and then the accessory, or maybe even use the accessory separate from the figure with another figure. That would have been very cool. And here's a smaller flame accessory that also looks really cool. It's not as heavy as the other one, and again, kind of wish you can remove it from there so you can use it with other figures and stuff like that. But that looks very cool. But the next accessory, you can kind of do two different things with it here. You can hold it in his hand like that. You have to kind of wedge it in between the fingers, but that looks very cool. So you can do that, or you can just have it sitting on the ground. It is kind of hard to balance it on the ground, and you can put it on the ground. And I think he does something like, off the top of my head, I don't remember. I haven't seen the game recently. I'm gonna try to put in some gameplay footage and stuff to show you, but I think he does maybe like a pose like this to shoot the fire or something like that. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. It's one of those two poses. You'll see in the gameplay that I'll put in here. Now I'll move on to some comparisons. The figure is pretty much at just barely 6.5 inches. It's like a 6 1/4. Here he is next to Terry Bogard. Like I said before, the original figure broke. And if you're not familiar with the lore of this figure on the channel, the original figure broke. Various places the figure broke, which is really dumb. And I've already said this enough in this review that the Terry figure was really poorly made in terms of the body. None of those problems with the new Iori figure. But because of those problems, I did have to take the clothes off the original body, put it on another blank body that I had, and this is a Noda Toys or Noda Studios body that I have, and I just put the head on there. I made the hat removable just because I could. The clothes, the clothes are still good and stuff. Like the jacket's really nice, the pants, the hands and things like that. It was just the original body that the figure came with was really bad. But like I said, I was never a big Terry fan anyway. There were so many other characters that I preferred more, like Kyo and Kei, Iori, Kula, Rugal, Orochi, just in terms of play style, in terms of gameplay and design. So the fact that the figure sucks doesn't really bother me that much. I just kind of bought it to support the line and to see how the figures are going to turn out. But anyways, let's continue with the comparisons. Here's the Bandai Namco Jin Kazama from Tekken 7. And this is my custom prison outfit, Jin. And here's the Jada Toys Ryu. This is the only Ryu figure I have. Again, never really a big Ryu fan. I was more of a Ken guy. And another one of my favorite King of Fighters characters. This is the Storm Collectibles, which is a larger scale. And I really can't wait to see how Tunshi pulls off this character. I think they're going to do a very good job with the jacket and the pants and all the different details and stuff like that. And it's going to look like the original artwork. So I really can't wait for them to release this character. Here it is next to the brand new Gamerverse Marvel Legends Captain America. Pretty much on the same scale. Here it is next to SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Ryuki. And this is the Shinkocho Seiho version of the figure. Here it is next to the Storm Arena Ken. So the Storm Arena figures are going to be a little bit shorter, I think. But it does make sense. They do say that Iori is 6 foot, which is kind of crazy. And Ken is like 5'10 or 5'9. Lore-wise, it does make sense. Ken is going to be shorter than Iori. And here he is next to Masterverse He-Man. Of course, Masterverse is a 7-inch line, so it's going to be a lot taller than Tunshi figures. So that's it for the review. I think if you're a King of Fighters fan, you have to pick this up. This is worth the price. It's about $100, but I think it's worth every penny. Quality really shows in this figure. Like I keep saying throughout the review, I'm really happy with the direction of this company. They're really moving forward and they're fixing their mistakes with the previous figure. If you're a fan of Terry, I feel bad for you. They might re-release that figure. They probably will. But it looks like moving forward, this company is going to be releasing nearly perfect figures every time. One thing I just realized is that he doesn't really have a laughing head sculpt. So like he does in his intro animation. This is like the closest you're going to get. It's not bad. It's just not very accurate in my opinion. And also I just realized I'm bleeding. So I hope I didn't get any blood on the figure. But that's it for the review. Let me know what you guys think about the figure. Let me know your thoughts on the review. That's all I gotta say. I'll see you in the next one.
すぐ楽にしてやる。Round 1 Ready Go! 無駄だ無駄だ押したおりゃ無駄だあーだぶん無駄ぶんおりゃおりゃ無駄だお押したやい無駄だ楽にはしないぞ Winner is Iori. Round 1 Ready Go! Power wave! Power wave! Power wave! Power wave! Right tackle! Power wave! Power wave!
And here's what's left of the figure. You can see his leg is broken, his wrist broke, ankle joint broke, part of it is in the leg. So this is what's left of the figure.